Does Andy Dalton finally win a playoff game? Does Matthew Stafford finally beat a team on the road that has a winning record? And does the home team win and cover in the third go-round for the Ravens Steelers this weekend? Those are just a few of the questions we're about to answer here on this week's edition of the Countdown to Kickoff show, the only nationally televised show that breaks down your top NFL matchups from a point spread perspective. Hi everyone, Al DeMarco here. My normal partner, Brandon Lang, unavailable this weekend because of the holiday, but that's okay. I'm going to fly solo, and let's start it by breaking up one of the misconceptions that so many gamblers have out there about riding the underdogs in the first round. Now listen, dogs are going to bark. That's just a basic fact of life, but you've got to be careful because road dogs, since the wild card back in 1978 really evolved, are one game under 500 versus the odds makers. Think about that. One game under 500 versus the odds makers going back to 1978. And why is this important? Because all your underdogs, guys, are on the road this weekend. Let's start with the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game. The home team, as I alluded to at the top of this report, won and covered both meetings this season, each team ironically winning by 20 points. Now, throw out the early season matchup because these two teams have evolved and have certainly changed. Instead, focus on the rematch that the Steelers won at home by 20 points, a game in which Ben Roethlisberger was simply incredible, throwing for 340 yards, throwing 6 touchdown passes, playing pitch and catch with Antonio Brown, who had 11 receptions for 144 yards. It was after that game that Harbaugh basically started rebuilding the Ravens secondary. That's how pathetic they were. Baltimore, some issues definitely against winning teams and against those on the road. But first of all, let's point out that the Ravens have failed to cover in 6 of their last 7 division road games. They're only 1-4 against the spread in the last 5 meetings in this series. And how ironic that this year the home and team won each game by 20-point margins when coming into the 2014 campaign. The previous 5 meetings between these two arch rivals had all been decided by a field goal or less. Baltimore also 1-6 straight up and against the spread, with teams with winning records this season, as opposed to the Steelers, who were 6-1 straight up and against the spread in similar situation when battling winning teams. Now, listen, the Steelers secondary isn't very good. I mean, it was shredded this year. Scorch for 30 touchdown passes only came up with 11 interceptions. But the Steelers are very good at putting pressure on the quarterback and also at stopping the run. And that's going to be key here, especially with Justin Forsett, so much of a figure in the Ravens ground game now as opposed to early in the season when these two first met. But speaking of the run game, Bell for the Steelers may not play because of that knee injury suffered in the season finale for the Steelers on Monday night against the Bengals. And that is going to really hurt Pittsburgh here if he's not available because they don't really have a proven capable backup. But ultimately, this game comes down to the quarterbacks, and I would give the edge to Roethlisberger at home. Plus, it's the 3rd straight home game for the Steelers, who are coming off the 27-17 win Monday night against the Bengals and a 20-12 win in a must-win game against Kansas City. They've won 4 straight coming into this game. And listen, guys, at a 3-point number, I would go ahead and lay it with the Steelers. And with the number sitting at 3, as you know, when the line crosses 3, 4, 7, and sometimes 10, I always say that you either buy down or buy up the half point, depending on whether you're on the favorite or on the underdog. And in this particular case, I am definitely spending the extra 20 cents a dollar and taking Pittsburgh from 3.5 to 3 or from 3 to 2.5. So I would definitely lean towards Pittsburgh in this one. You know, one of the things that I always look for when it comes time for the postseason is how teams have fared lately. One thing that I like is teams that are definitely on the upswing toward the end of the regular season. I don't want a Debbie Downer. I don't want a team that's definitely going downhill and struggling as the regular season comes to a close. And that philosophy definitely applies to the Carolina-Arizona contest. Listen, 70% chance of rain, so it's not going to be ideal weather conditions for this particular game. But ultimately, this one comes down to a Carolina team that has won 4 straight games versus an Arizona team, an injury-riddled Arizona team that has lost 4 of its last 6. Defense averaging 490 yards per game allowed in that 6-game stretch. And as you know, the Cardinals are down to their 3rd-string quarterback, Ryan Lindley, who's just 1-5 lifetime straight up as a starter. And he's coming off games against Seattle and San Francisco. Now, Carolina's defense not in the realm of those two defenses, the Seahawks or the 49ers. But they certainly have been playing better here of late. In fact, 17 quarterback sacks in the month of December. They're putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks. They're pretty good at stopping the run. This Arizona team, if this game had been played 8 weeks ago, would have mopped the floor with the Panthers. But the fact is, the Panthers are playing well. Granted, the defense has only allowed 43 points in the last 4 games, but consider the competition. I've got to at least play devil's advocate and point out the foes they've beaten: New Orleans, Tampa, Cleveland, and Atlanta. Those 4 teams, their players, their coaches, their GMs are all going to be watching this game on TV today, just like you and me, okay, come this weekend. Bottom line, even though Arizona is 11-5 against the spread on the road during Bruce Arians' tenure, are you going to want to lay or grab the points with Ryan Lindley? I think the way to look at this particular contest is to lean toward Carolina, but I also like the under in this game. I don't see this being a high-scoring contest. I can see this being one of those 2014 games, a 17-14 game, 17-10 game, so I think you play the under in Carolina and Arizona. Dallas taking on Detroit. Cowboys certainly on a roll. Since that Thanksgiving Day debacle at home against the Eagles, they have won 4 straight, scoring 41, 38, 42, and 44 points in those contests. In fact, they have put 31 or more points on the board in 6 of their last 7 games, and they're so tough offensively. I mean, are you going to overplay the run and try to stop DeMarco Murray? Because Romo and Dez Bryant will eat you up in the passing game, and that's the dilemma that the Lions face. Yes, the Lions have that great defense. Yes, very hard to run on the Lions. Packers, though, Eddie Lacy had some success last week. Aaron Rodgers certainly had some success last week, and he was basically playing on one leg. This is a Dallas team that's a 6.5 to 7-point favorite, and I think you've got to ride the Cowboys in this spot. Lions don't play particularly well on the road. In fact, their road wins this season beat the Bears, the Falcons, the Vikings, the Jets. Again, 4 teams whose players, coaches, and staff are all going to be watching this game on television like you and I. Their losses on the road this season to Carolina, to Arizona, New England, and Green Bay, and they scored a total of 42 points in those games. So, Lions, Matthew Stafford, never a primetime performer as far as I'm concerned, especially on the road, and the numbers back me up. 0-16 straight up on the road in games versus teams that have 500 or better records. And the Lions have to put all their marbles on Matthew Stafford because they have no ground game. So this is a situation I would definitely lean towards Dallas and lay the points with the Cowboys. And I'll tell you what, I think an interesting teaser situation here would, in a standard 2-team 6-point teaser, would be to take Dallas and Carolina down, 2 home favorites, taking them down to anywhere from a 0.5 point to a 1-point chalk in both their games against Detroit and Arizona, respectively. Finally, you've got Indianapolis and Cincinnati. Listen, I am not sold on the Colts. I think they'll be lucky to win this game. This is not a good Colts team. Defensively, they have so many flaws. Offensively, ever since Ahmad Bradshaw, who gave them a ground game early in the season, suffered the season-ending injury, the Colts are just an average team offensively because everybody and their brother knows it's going to be Luck throwing the ball. 40 touchdown passes, yes, for Luck, but he has no ground support. Of course, it may not be needed against these Cincinnati Bengals. Isn't it ironic that Marvin Lewis earned his rep as a great defensive genius, but the Bengals are just a lousy defensive team? Listen, there's a reason that Indianapolis beat them handily 27-0 in the first go-round. Remember also in that first meeting, A.J. Green, their top wide receiver, did not play, and God knows what percentage he will be in terms of being healthy for this one, dealing with the arm-shoulder injury, coming off the concussion suffered in the season finale loss at Pittsburgh on Monday night. Andy Dalton, as I said at the top of this video report, 0-3 straight up in the postseason, right? One touchdown pass, 6 interceptions. You have to say it's a must-win situation for the Bengals and Dalton. But do you really want to go against Andrew Luck at home, where the Colts were 6-2 straight up and against the spread this season? And again, they won the first meeting 27-0, holding Cincinnati to just 135 net yards in that contest. Also, the Bengals, 3rd road game in 4 weeks. I think it's a tough spot here. And also, the Colts still, no ground game, but they still have Luck. And I think the home field advantage is ultimately the difference in this particular game. So I would go with Indianapolis and lay the 3 points. And again, I would buy down the half point in this particular situation because the line is crossing 3. So if you get the Colts anywhere from 3 to 4.5, guys, go ahead and buy down the half point. And one other little tip here, guys. Listen, if you know who you're going to play and you're ready to get your wager in, do so if you're in the favorite. If you're on the favorite, because you bet favorites early and underdogs late, 99% of the time, that always pays off. And that'll do it for this week's video report. Make sure you catch my daily video reports over on the website each and every day. Best of luck to you guys. Hope you make some money this weekend, and we'll catch you next week on the Countdown to Kickoff show.